Mississippi is still a very rough place. People is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. They can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this leads me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man. As we know, this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand it. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us.
Paying homage to our foremothers on this Black History Month. Welcome, everybody, to Burn It Down with Kim Brown. That was a 1968 interview with voting rights activist, community organizer, all-around badass, Fannie Lou Hamer. If you don't know the work of Fannie Lou, please, I suggest you get familiar. She was born in October, and I believe that was 1917. She passed away in 1977, but as you can imagine, for someone who lived in Mississippi during that stretch of time, she saw it all, right? She saw lynchings. She saw and helped organize the Freedom Summer. She was also a member in prominent person in SNCC. She was a co-founder of the National Political Women's Caucus. She also was a co-founder of the Freedom Democratic Party. Fannie Lou Hamer was all about organizing in the streets and organizing in political spaces as well. So on this Black History Month, we want to lead off with some wise, prescient words from our ancestors. Hey, I'd like to welcome y'all to the program. And if you're seeing the title of the show, you know what it says, right? We pay police thugs to terrorize and brutalize our children and evict houseless people. If you were with us on Friday, which I hope a good many of you were, we had a brilliant conversation with radical Black feminist and artist Amorous Ebony. And what were we talking about, y'all? How Black women are targeted for violence at the street harassment level, for intimate partner violence, and state violence. And what did we see fresh on your social media timelines over the past several days? A 9-year-old Black girl in Rochester, New York, getting pepper sprayed in the face after the police were called to her home because she was experiencing a mental health crisis. Now, I'm going to sit here and okay. So I'm familiar with the story. I have not watched this video specifically, like deliberately, because I told y'all I do not get off on Black trauma porn. I don't, but I understand that we need to at least witness it so we can bear witness, so we can know what happened, so we can say, yes, I saw the police brutalize that child in this way. So what we're going to do, and I'm giving y'all a trigger warning about violence against children done by the state, we're going to take a look at this video. This is a 1-minute clip edited that was released by the Rochester Police Department at the behest of the mayor of Rochester. Um, the video is a minute long. After the video finishes playing, we're going to hear from the head or the spokesperson of the Fraternal Order of Police for the Rochester Police Department. And this motherfucker was on one. Okay. Let me just say it like that. So y'all get comfy. This is about 2-ish minutes and some change. But again, I'm giving y'all a trigger warning. I have not seen this video in its entirety, and I'm really reluctant to see it, but here we are. So, Brother Tunde, if you could, please roll this for the folks.
Come on. I'm gonna pay for you and I don't want to. Sit back. Then sit back. Come on. This is your last chance, otherwise pepper spray's going in your eyeballs. Come on, let's go.
Sorry, just keep my face for a minute.
Come on. I want my dad. Come on. I'm gonna go get him. Now sit back. Come on. I will fix it. I will fix it.
Dear, why you just stop for a second and take a deep breath. Hey, just stop.
Please. I will get your dad.
No, you said that you were gonna pepper spray me. No, please, no, stop.
Sit back.
Oh, I got a bad arm.
Just spray her.
No, I have
Just
a
spray
bad
her at this
arm.
point.
Stop.
Dear,
Stop.
I got her. I got her.
Please, wipe my eye. Wipe my eye, please.
Unbelievable.
I can't tell you anything about him. He came to the scene shortly thereafter. They were trying to get her into the car and made a decision. He made a decision there that he thought was the best action to take. It resulted in her no injury to her. Had they had to go and push further and use more force, there's a good chance she could have been hurt worse. It's very, very difficult to get somebody into the back of a police car like that. And she's 9 years old. Imagine what happens when we have a full-grown individual that we're dealing with.
You talk about the psychological impact on the officers, but what about the psychological impact on the 9-year-old girl who had to deal with this traumatic situation?
How about the traumatic situations that she's been dealing with? Did you listen to the words that her mother was saying to her? That's what's sad. That's what's disturbing. That's what officers go home and say, how does that girl have a chance in life? What's that officer supposed to do? What can they do? You know what? Understand how we respond to situations. Let me go from a man with a gun call, to a traffic accident, to a family disturbance, to another incident. After this, those officers probably had to go on to several other calls that night. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. Some of those officers probably didn't get a chance to even discuss it until when? Hours later?
That was Mazzeo. His last name, Mazzeaeo. He is the spokesperson, perhaps the Grand Wizard, allegedly. I don't know for a fact he's an Imperial Wizard, but there he is, taking up for his officers, members of the Rochester Police Department, telling us, the public, that, we should be more concerned about the mental state of the police officer rather than the mental state of the 9-year-old child who was just traumatized and attacked by law enforcement. And let me credit my producer, Genevieve Montanar. Genevieve raised an excellent point earlier. She said, had an other adult, let's say one of the girl's parents, let's say your fourth grader's pissing you off and you want to calm that motherfucker down. If you were to pepper spray your 9-year-old, your fourth grader in the face, you're going the fuck to jail. Why? Because that is felonious child abuse. That is assault. If you use a chemical agent on another adult without being in the course of it being in self-defense somehow, you have assaulted them. How is it that these police officers are, again, being given tremendous amounts of grace? 9 officers have been suspended, likely with pay. And let me credit the journalist there, the very tenacious journalist who you could hear was trying to take measured breaths and remain calm. That is Will Cleveland. They are a multimedia journalist with and a public safety investigative reporter with the DNC, the Democrat and Chronicle, based out of Rochester, New York. You guys, Black women and Black girls are under attack. And I know some people would say, yeah, Black people in general are under attack. Correct. I wouldn't disagree with that. The difference is that when something happens to a Black boy child or to a Black man, especially at the hands of the state, people are out in the streets in force, right? By the thousands. And usually it's women leading that charge. I don't see the same level of response, street response, when it comes to Black women and girls being harmed by the state in the same way, at least not the same volume of people, right? But to Rochester, New York's credit, this is not Rochester's first rodeo. I'm sure you all can recall last year, 2020, a man by the name of Daniel Prude was killed while in police custody, also reported to be having a mental health crisis. Please, Black people, stop calling the police on your friends, on your family members. If they are having a crisis, please let the police be the last people you call. Please call your pastor. Call anybody but the fucking cops, because when they arrive on the scene, they are going to exacerbate and make the situation worse. They are going to antagonize the person who is already in a heightened state of crisis. And the kicker is Rochester, New York has a crisis response team. This is something fairly new in the city of Rochester. Why were not mental health professionals dispatched? Well, before I go talking shit about nobody showed up, that's a lie. People did show up in the streets for that young lady. And I want us to take a look at some of the protest footage from yesterday. I believe the protests got bigger as the night went on. But this is how the beginning stages of yesterday's demonstrations went against Rochester police for assaulting, traumatizing, and terrorizing a 9-year-old Black girl. Tunde, let's take a look at that if we could.
She's still a 9-year-old little girl. Naila was 10 years old at the time. The media lied to us. The police lied to us and said that this little girl tried to run out in traffic when she never did when we finally got the body cams. She surrendered herself. She put her hands behind her back. And still, she was put in handcuffs for 2 hours in the backseat of her car, and her mother showed up to the scene, and they would not give her her mother. So we're here demanding a change from our chief, our mayor, our legislators, our pastors, our leaders that are in position. We need y'all to take a stand today so that our babies can be protected. Press Naila's law. If you have a connection, if you have somebody that you can talk to, let's protect our babies.
Within the past hour, the man
Face a little kid. RPD, look what you did. You just faced a little kid. RPD, look what you did. You just faced a little kid. RPD, cuffs off our kids.
Keep your cuffs off of our kids.
Keep your cuffs off of our kids.
Keep your cuffs off of our kids. Keep your cuffs off of our kids. Keep your cuffs off of our kids. Keep your cuffs. No.
Those were the people of Rochester, New York, taken to the streets to let the police know that this shit is not all good. And again, y'all, the cops are making an amazing case for defunding them sons of bitches, are they not? For abolishment even. How much more tax dollars are we going to allot to police departments who terrorize our communities, quite literally terrorizing our children? We got a lot of comments from the comments already. Hold on. Let me get to these. And shout out to everyone that's watching us right now on Periscope. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Burn It Down KB. From the comments, what do we have here? Courtney, the SLP, says the police are the biggest gang in America. KKK America. Without a doubt. Listen, I was watching SVU earlier, y'all. There's some cop propaganda that I will accept. Law and Order SVU tragically is one of those shows. But Olivia Benson was talking to a suspect, and what did she tell the Bama? She told him, I got the biggest gang in the city. You want to fuck with me? I got NYPD at my back. So there's that. Yes, the police know that they are a huge gang. Fuck Imperialism says Friday's episode was absolute fire. One of Kim's best interviews. Thank you, Fuck Imperialism. And here's the thing. Like, apparently we can talk about Black women facing violence every show because it seems to be such a commonplace event, and it's so prevalent against certain specific. And let me not exclude Indigenous women in this too, because if you want to look at the rates of Indigenous women who go missing, who are facing sexual assault and violence, I'm sure our numbers are comparable. Same for our Latinx sisters, in as well. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so disturbed, and I'm be curious to hear from like Black parents. Like, how do y'all deal with this? Like, how is it that you're able to send your children out in the world, understanding that they could be facing random violence for some random shithead on the street or some random police officer whom the children have been trained as an early age to look at as officer friendly? Can you imagine what that little girl is going to have to go through from here on out? And again, let me circle back real quick to stop calling the police on your own Black people. Okay, please, y'all. What was the incident that we saw happen in Philadelphia? The young man was having a mental health episode. His parents, I feel horrible for his mother because she called the police on her own son, which of course indicates that she had to been experiencing a certain level of fear or concern about either her safety or his own safety. But at the end of the day, what happened? The cop shot her son dead. They didn't want to hear, they didn't want to talk, they didn't want to understand the situation. They certainly weren't there to resolve the problem, right? And it's the exact same thing with this young lady. So the 9-year-old in Rochester, pepper sprayed in the face for failing to comply. And when the little girl responds to the cop who says to her, "You're acting like a child," and she says, "I am a child." Black children are not viewed as children. They are looked at as little adults and somehow expected to conduct themselves to the utmost standards of white supremacist behavior, whatever that is. However, this larger society expects Black children to carry themselves, I guess, without fault, without ever having a temper tantrum, without ever speaking back, or perhaps without ever hitting. I mean, my God, here's my thing. What the fuck kind of training are they giving the Rochester Police Department that they have to take these specific kinds of postures with a 9-year-old? Like, how do you not be able to handle a 9-year-old? And then you hear the Fraternal Order Police mouthpiece carrying water, justifying the trauma and abuse that this little girl endured at the hands of his officers and minimizing it, saying that she didn't suffer any injuries. I don't have the patience, y'all. And the show is called Burn It Down for a reason, because we got to burn this shit to the fucking floor. Because the amount of money that police departments receive, more so than public health departments, more so than parks and recs, more so than public school systems, the cops get a lion's share of those dollars. And when the cops are called upon to act in a de-escalating sort of role for someone having a mental health crisis, those are the wrong fucking people to call. And you know what? We could actually pay and train and equip the correct people to call if the police weren't hogging up so much of the public taxpayer money. Let's go to the comments. We got some more comments as well. FYI, we're going to, about 10 minutes, we're going to be checking in with independent journalist Shauna Sowersby. Shauna's been on the show before. She's out in the Pacific Northwest. Another way your taxpayer dollars are being put to shitty use. The Olympia Police Department, actually their SWAT team, was called to evict a bunch of houseless people, who were taking up residence in a hotel. Shauna was there. She got the video. We're going to go into depth with her about exactly what happened there in Olympia. But again, we're in the middle of a pandemic. For God's sakes, stop putting people out on the street. Stop forcefully evicting people. If that's how our taxpayer dollars are being allotted and being used, well, then we need a new goddamn way to spend our taxpayer dollars, because I'm sick of this shit, man. Like, these people are not better than us. They are not superior to us. They seem to think that they have the moral authority to do whatever the fuck, to torture children, to evict houseless people, to abuse, to maim, to murder with no accountability. Oh, also to incite riots at the Capitol with little accountability. That's another story. Laura wear a mask, my dear. Laura says, cops should not respond to a mental health episodes without a mental health professional. Facts, man. Like, at some point, yeah, I mean, you have to. I don't know how. Y'all tell me. Can you call 911 and have them just send an ambulance, or is police automatically going to come with that? Like, if you call and you say that someone is injured, maybe you shouldn't even say they're having a mental health crisis. If you feel as though the police is calling the police or calling someone from the state is your last remedy, maybe omit that the person might be having a mental health crisis. Just say they maybe perhaps seem confused or out of it somehow. Maybe don't say that they're threatening violence to themselves. I mean, this 9-year-old girl, part of what the police are saying, that the reason they treated her as harshly as they did, they claim that she was suicidal. Is that how the fuck you treat somebody who's thinking about killing themselves or harming others? And excuse me, I don't know the level of harm that a 9-year-old is able to commit against other adults. Now, maybe that's me being naive because I don't have children. Maybe 9-year-olds are whole out terrorists. I don't know. I doubt it, because I remember being 9 and I remember understanding that I was a child versus adults. And I understood inherently that that was a losing battle. Also from the comments, some bitch, I just heard it. God damn it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not even high, but I got my weed with me because I'm blown at fucking watching that shit. Like, I am just horrified and terrified for Black people. QB Riken 77 says, you need a super chat, Kim, so that we can donate. Thank you. Okay, sidebar. So about that. So for YouTube, you have to hit some certain metrics, right, in order for your channel to be monetized. And we have only hit one of those metrics. We've crossed the 1,000 subscriber threshold, which was very big, very important. Thank you all so much for subscribing. It truly, truly means a lot. The other thing that we got to hit is 4,000 watch hours. From what I understand, we are relatively close to that. So listen, I'm here for y'all sending your money. Okay. Me, Tunde, Genevieve, and Molly would very much appreciate it. But and if you want to, in lieu of the super chat, you can feel free to hit up our Patreon, patreon.com/BIDWKB, or hit us up on Cash App, $BIDWKB. Thank you, QB Riken 77. I was not trying to take that moment as a fundraising opportunity, but thank you very much for asking the question. The other comment, QB Riken 77 says, I feel like I am high. Am I high? I don't think I am. They say disturbing to say the least, the video. Absolutely. And I think the other thing that is very disturbing has to do with the response from the Fraternal Order of Police, because it just appears that no matter what the officers do, they're going to be defended, right? And they can do no wrong. And they have defenders politically on all sides of the aisle. You know, Democrats are not going to be our friends in the efforts to defund the police. Joe Biden already let y'all know that off the top, told y'all during the campaign. I'm not about defunding the police. Matter of fact, I'm going to give the police more money. The Democrats are not going to be our friends here in this struggle to defund the police, to abolish the police, to end the carceral state as a whole. So let's not even look for the Bamas to do that. Let's see. We have a few minutes before Shauna joins us, and should I talk about this? What's going on with the teachers union, y'all? I'm sure you've seen. First of all, they're trying to send the teachers back to school in unsafe conditions as the pandemic is mutated. Pardon me, the virus is mutating and accelerating. Somebody want to correct me? Get your verbiage right. It's not the pandemic isn't mutating. The virus is mutating. Okay, fine. The virus is mutating. We got the South African strain right here in Maryland. Isn't that fun? And what did Larry Hogan say? Larry Hogan said he wants y'all kids back the fuck in school. Larry Hogan also said, FYI, that kids need to be back in school, but his upcoming State of the State address will be delivered virtually on video. Why? Why, Governor Hogan? Why don't you want people in front of your face as a two-time cancer survivor, as someone who is immunocompromised? How come you don't want to be indoors with a bunch of people, Governor Hogan? Is it dangerous? Oh, well, if it's too dangerous for you, it's probably too dangerous for the fucking kids, the teachers, their families, their parents, their grandparents. The level of denial about how COVID is transmitted, period, whether or not people believe children are super spreaders or not, the fucking thing spreads. Children are more likely to be asymptomatic, but guess what? Kids die from COVID. Children have died from COVID. Teachers have died from COVID. Like, enough already. We got a couple minutes here, Tunde. I gotta pull up the list to see exactly what number these are. But I did want to take a peek really quick at the response, the Democratic and Republican response to the teachers, by the way. This is a bipartisan effort to kill teachers en masse. The first clip we're going to see is from Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. This was the 31st, so I guess this was Sunday night. Since the pandemic and the lockdown, I have no idea what day is what. So yes, this would have been Sunday night. Chicago public school teachers were ordered to report for in-person learning Monday. The teachers union said, nope, guess who ain't going to be in school Monday? Us, our members. And Lori said, okay, well then maybe y'all might want to reconsider. So the first clip we're going to hear is from Lori Lightfoot Sunday night, taking a firm posture with the members of the Chicago Teachers Union. And then the second clip on the backside of that is an excerpt from an interview from this past Sunday's Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace. Don't ask me why I watch Fox News Sunday. I like yelling at my television on Sunday morning. It's my favorite thing to do. He was interviewing Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, and just see if you hear some overlapping points being made by both the mayor of a big Democratic city and the senator of a firmly Republican state. Tunde, if we could. I can't hear it, Tunde.
TU members and those who do not report to work, and I hate to even go there, but we're going to have to take action. Let's avoid that. Let's avoid it in the first instance by getting a deal done tonight.
One area that we decrease, he has $170 billion for schools. Now, we've already given schools 110% of what they usually receive from the federal government. Parochial schools have opened with a fraction of that money. Charter schools are open. The real problem is public schools. That issue is not money. That issue is teachers' unions telling their teachers not to go to work. And putting $170 billion towards teachers' unions' priorities, it takes care of a Democratic constituency group, but it wastes our federal taxpayer dollars for something which is not the problem. We have $20 billion to get kids back to school on top of the roughly $66 billion, which is on top of the $57 billion schools normally get. We can get kids back to school without, kind of bailing out the teachers' unions.
Again, that was from Fox News Sunday. Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy. Of course, he's a Republican, but woo, he sounded a lot like Democratic Mayor Lori Lightfoot, did he not? He threw out all those numbers, all these many billions of dollars that the federal government has given to schools up until this point to assist with the pandemic. Well, that fails to mention the decades of federal disinvestment from schools, especially our viewers who live in bigger or older cities, for example. How old are the schools in your city, like where you live? I know DC only started building new high schools maybe the past 10-ish, 15-ish years. State of Maryland, depending on where you are, if you live in a Black area, for example, Prince George's County, where I live, there has not been many new schools built. And actually, that's a whole nother can of worms because, well, I just mentioned this in passing, y'all. I'm not going to get into it. Prince George's County Schools for the first time is going to take out a loan, like a privately backed loan, in order to finance the construction of a bunch of new schools over the next decade or so. So many people in the community were against this, but the school system is willing to accrue this private debt because from the state of Maryland, Larry Hogan, and not just him, but others, generationally disinvest in Black areas like Prince George's County, like Baltimore City. So again, for Cassidy to say that, number one, the billions proposed in Joe Biden's 1.9 trillion stimulus relief package is going to appease the constituents, Democratic constituents. It doesn't sound as though the Democrats are finding the teachers union's posture too thrilling at this point. Another example, in Washington, D.C., the Attorney General in Washington, D.C. filed a temporary restraining order against the Washington Teachers Union because they are even discussing a possibility of a strike. Public schools in DC kids were supposed to report yesterday. We had snow, so they delayed school reopening, but today the teachers were supposed to report, and the teachers union is standing firm. So again, historical generational disinvestment in public education has resulted in buildings not being prepared to deal with in-person learning of students during a pandemic. And they're trying to rush this opening. They're trying to get these kids back in school so the parents can get back to work, all the while not raising the federal minimum wage. Shout out to our heroes, right? Our essential workers whom they don't want to pay. They don't want to increase their hourly wage from minimum wage in the year 2021. And there's all this talk about the fight for 15 by the year 2024, federally, that is. $15 going to be a livable wage in 2024? Everybody? Is $15 an hour a livable wage right now? No, it isn't. So I wanted to just touch base on what's happening with the teachers. The unions, you guys, the teachers unions are undoubtedly some of the most courageous in the labor movement, especially at this moment. If the teachers are put in a very difficult position, I hope they do strike. And I hope that the rest of us as workers would be willing to follow behind them in a general strike. The time is now, okay? Everyone is in a big position of desperation, not only citizens, like we are in a terrible, desperate spot, but these corporations are in a tough spot too. Some of them anyway, not Amazon, Google, Apple, not the biggies, but some of them are in a bad way right now. So I think now is the time to enact the things that we want, to exact the things that we want, not only from the Biden administration, but from everybody else who owe us. Hold on. And speaking of owe, before we bring Shauna on, Tunde, I don't know what letter it is, okay? It's the video about the stimulus. It's a 2-minute video. I'm sure you guys have seen this. It's gotten millions of views on social media, but it is a best of collection of all those people on the campaign trail stumping for Joe Biden, stumping for Senators Warnock and Ossoff in Georgia, trying to flip the Senate blue, flip Georgia blue, deliver 2 additional Senate seats for the Democrats, all under the promise of $2,000 stimulus checks going out the door right away. It is February the 2nd. I have not received my stimmy from the Biden administration. And I'm very grateful to the person who decided to put all these clips together. So, Brother Tunde, if we could real quick show Biden, Kamala, Pete Buttigieg, Ossoff, and Warnock lying and playing directly in our faces. Let's take a look.
If you send John and the Reverend to Washington, those $2,000 checks will go out the door.
We will be able to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people next week.
We'll deliver the $2,000 stimulus checks.
And that begins with the $2,000 stimulus.
When you send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks. You send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks.
They will make decisions about whether we give people a $2,000 check.
We need to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people.
For getting people the $2,000 in relief, direct payment.
Congress should pass $2,000 checks. President-elect Biden and Democrats are all pushing for $2,000 relief checks. $2,000 stimulus checks. $2,000 relief checks. $2,000 relief checks. They should send $2,000 checks to the American people right now. Supporting $2,000 relief payments right now.
We need to be passing the $2,000 stimulus relief checks.
That means we need John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, who will go to D.C. to ensure the $2,000 checks.
You see ads that say, want your $2,000 stimulus check? Vote Democrat. Vote for Warnock.
The stimulus check. Chuck Schumer is trying to increase it to $2,000.
Well, I actually have a bill for that.
One of the first things that I want to do when our new senators are seated is deliver the $2,000 checks to the American families.
And the debate over $2,000 isn't some abstract debate.
$2,000 checks, so kind of actually $1,400 checks.
By electing John and the Reverend, we'll put an end to the block in Washington on that $2,000 stimulus check.
10 moderate Republicans want a seat at the table to pitch a slimmed-down relief proposal.
That money that will go out the door immediately.
What they might be willing to do is negotiate on those stimulus checks.
How can you assure Americans that relief will come and come soon?
Have you ever known anyone in the history of the United States of America that could be president and assure exactly what the Congress is going to do?
That money that will go out the door immediately. And that's not hyperbole, that's real.
Playing in our faces. How many times do I have to say it? And let me throw Stacey Abrams in there, also playing in our face. They just nominated her for a Nobel Peace Prize. Hey, Stacey, run me my $2,000 check, and we might get have a discussion about a Peace Prize, even though, anyway, that also a whole nother conversation, guys. So we're going to be putting our foot on the neck of the Biden administration more next week. So stick around. We're going to see how these stimulus negotiations go. But are you already here? The willingness to capitulate to what the Republicans want, the willingness to reach across the aisle. Well, when Democrats say they want to reach across the aisle, that means they're about to sell us the fuck out. So be wary. When you hear those buzzwords, know that our wants and needs and our agenda is about to hit the back burner. I digress. We're going to circle back to these all cops are bad real quick if we could, because as I mentioned at the top of the show, we are paying thugs to terrorize Black children, Black communities, and use the power of the state, their militarized muscle, to evict people who are houseless. We have seen these sort of videos here on this program before. Of course, how can you forget Richie Sergenko from the LA People's City Council took footage of the California Highway Patrol evicting families from empty, vacant homes the same week of Thanksgiving. Well, first, let me bring in Shauna here. You guys, we are joined today with independent journalist Shauna Sowersby. Now, Shauna is based in the Pacific Northwest. She has been covering the protest actions all last year throughout Portland, throughout Seattle, and Olympia, Washington as well. Her videos have garnered a lot of views and a lot of attention to the levels of police violence and brutality that have been occurring in cities and towns throughout the Pacific Northwest. Shauna, I'm very excited to have you back on the program. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me again, Kim. Good to see you.
And the last time you were here, they snatched my video off YouTube. So hopefully that won't happen again.
Yeah, hopefully not the same situation this time.
And if you're curious, you guys, that episode was the title had Proud Boys in it. So go back and look at our playlist and see the video that YouTube was too hot for YouTube. They took it down like 2 or 3 times. I had to appeal for YouTube to reinstate that video. But Shauna, I'm so very appreciative that you were here. So what happened in Olympia? And before you start to tell the story, should we run the video first and then you sort of fill in the blanks, or should you like prep us about what we're about to see and what we are witnessing with the clips that you shot?
So I'll give you a little bit of background first, and then if you want to go ahead and roll the clips as I'm kind of getting into later on in the evening whenever I film them, that would probably work the best because there's a lot of context from earlier in the day as well, of course. So what happened was that a group called Oli Housing Now, they advocate for homelessness. They purchased hotel rooms from the Red Lion Hotel in Olympia, Washington on Saturday night they purchased 17 rooms for 33 people. On Sunday, when they went to check out, they weren't going to check out, sorry. They attempted to negotiate with the front desk about purchasing more room. There was funding available. However, the group had released a press release prior to that stating their intent on occupying the hotel with the homeless families that they brought in. But the hotel staff wasn't happy. There are allegations that it was a sort of hostage situation in which protesters outside who were protecting the homeless families got into it with the front desk. And so they were told to go downstairs and sort of, wait this whole situation out. But the interesting part about it is that even though this was a supposed hostage situation, the manager of the hotel was still going out of the building, still speaking with police. From what I heard from other reporters on the ground, people were just sort of milling about throughout the day. It's really complicated to say what actually occurred with this supposed hostage situation. The most information that I have so far is from the police, and we, don't always know if that's accurate or not. So what I know is that I arrived around, throughout the whole day, I was texting people that were in the hotel. I had intended on going in there to meet them. Nobody mentioned any sort of hostage situation. People were coming in and out of the building. Again, I was getting ready to walk into the hotel to go meet with a source and turned this corner and saw, hundreds of officers staging with SWAT vehicles, unmarked cars, just all sorts of things. And so right as I was about to enter the building is when all these guys show up.
Shauna, I'm curious. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just curious, how much time lapsed between the initial claims of a hostage situation at the hotel and the time that your first video hit, where we're seeing the SWAT vehicles? And we're about to look at that video in just a second, folks, so you guys can have some context. But I just wanted to sort of lay the foundation as to what we're about to see. So was this a period of minutes, or was this hours? Like when the person alleged that they were being held hostage and the time the SWAT team showed up, how much time had passed?
I mean, this is several hours that this had happened. And I even spoke with local business owners and asked, if they saw anything suspicious outside, or if they, were feeling threatened by any of the groups that were out there. They said, no, people were holding signs, asking for, just some sort of reprieve from the governor, things like that, just protest signs. And so I thought that point was very interesting. Just that, at 11 o'clock, the first call went in. And then it wasn't until 6 p.m. when a supposed anonymous call came through from hotel staff who said they were still inside. Again, this is like police, this is what the police were telling us during a press conference yesterday. And so we don't know who that anonymous tip was, but at 6:30 is when the SWAT team rolled in. So 11 was the initial call. Nothing happened between then until there was the phone call at 6, and then at 6:30 is when everybody rolled in.
Okay. And that's where we're going to begin, where Shauna's videos sort of pick up as we're witnessing the SWAT team response to the Red Lion Hotel. Do I have that right, Shauna? Red Lion Hotel in Olympia, Washington, set to evict a couple dozen houseless people, community members, from what I'm gathering, in rooms that were paid for, or at least attempting to be paid for. So Tunde, if we could, let's start with the videos. And again, this is a compilation of some of Shauna's videos. We're going to see the police rolling up. We're going to see police milling about, protesters obviously making their feelings loud and clear. And I believe the last video wraps up with a mother and child being forced out of their hotel room into the streets during a pandemic. Tunde, if we could, please.
Back across the line, they're facing arrest.
Get you back to this.
Back across the line, they're facing arrest.
Hey, that's a veteran. You show some fucking respect, that's a veteran.
What are they?
Black man being arrested. Black man being arrested. That's a fucking baby. You're traumatizing that child who just wants to be safe. That's it, just to be warm.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? If there is a God, I pray to God that you all die a horrible fucking death. Who the fuck does that? There's fucking children. She has fucking babies.
Yeah, what the fuck? I know you're looking.
Disturbing video there, Shauna. And I know as part of your reporting, you included the fact that police used flashbangs to gain entrance into some of the rooms. And we saw at least one person being taken out on a stretcher. Do we know the extent of the injuries that people perhaps sustained in this eviction? I'm gonna call it a cop cruelty event. I don't know what else to call this. Like, I don't see why you take people out of a place that they have paid for, or someone has paid for them to be, and put them out on the street. But were people injured to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, no. I think one thing that's really important to bring up about this whole thing too is that there were also 27 other families who are homeless who live in that hotel. Their housing is provided by a nonprofit in town. And so I did get a chance to kind of figure out what was going on a little bit on their end. Again, as far as I know, there were no injuries, but there were a lot of the families were very traumatized by the flashbangs going off in the hotel. Some people are not very comfortable with law enforcement, and they were, of course, very traumatized by having law enforcement come through the hotel where, they typically live. So that was I think that's a really important point to bring up as well.
To your knowledge, Shauna, the residents who were evicted that night, were they able to secure any housing, any further housing, or do you know what happened to them?
Again, this is sort of a tricky situation, and we're getting a lot of one-sided information from this, mostly that being from the police. And from what they said during the press conference yesterday, that they offered to send some people to other places, but according to them, they said not everybody accepted help. I know not everybody that evening was able to find a place. I'm not sure where most of them went. When I was filming the police presence from behind the hotel, we watched them bring some of the houseless folks out through the back, so they wouldn't be going out in front in view of the protesters. They were bringing them out back and then just releasing them to the park that's right behind the building.
Shauna, I mean, you've been covering these events of varying kinds, right? They're all it's all not involving the Houseless. It's all not involving Black Lives Matter. You've been covering some of the right-wing demonstrations as well. And on your Twitter timeline, you remarked that a gathering of armed right-wing extremists in proximity to where this hotel was in Olympia was not nearly met with the level of police force that these houseless residents got. Can you clarify what you meant by that, and what have you observed in terms of the police response to so-called leftists versus the right-wing extremists?
Yeah, so that I was at the state capitol here in Olympia on the 6th, and that was the day the U.S. Capitol also had the insurrection. I was witnessing, I mean, almost everybody there, every, far right Trump supporter was armed with something of some sort. They even stormed the governor's mansion that day, threatening law enforcement who were behind the gates. They were even able to
time out. Wait, what? I mean, I see how that maybe could have, fell into the news cycle wash and people may have missed that. I totally missed that. What? They stormed the governor's mansion in Olympia, Washington. Hold on.
Yeah.
Keep going. What?
Yeah. It was they broke through the front gates. They made it up to the very front. And I don't know, for whatever reason they decided not to go inside, but all of these people were armed, and I saw very minimal. I mean, I could probably count the number of officers on both hands that I saw that day, compared to what I saw on Sunday night, which was again, I don't even remember. There's probably 3 SWAT vehicles total on Sunday. 30 vehicles in the back alone, 30 in the front at least, if not more. These guys wearing full, flak jackets. They've got the crowd control weapons out, trying to hold protesters back out front while SWAT team goes in. I mean, it was just really, really egregious. And thinking about how much that costs, right, to fund all of those police officers who are out there, compared to what it costs to just purchase a hotel room for some families for the night.
Unbelievable. And the Pacific Northwest is such an interesting region, especially when it comes to resisting police violence, from Portland to Seattle to Olympia to even what we witnessed in Tacoma a couple of weeks ago, where the community came out in force because police officers were using their vehicles to hit people in the streets. And the response to that act of police brutality was tremendous. Can you categorize like kind of what the sentiment is? I mean, it is absolutely, from what I'm observing, again, from all the way across the country, when I look at what's happening and how people respond in the Pacific Northwest, they are ready to meet the police where they are. They are willing to put their bodies on the line, to get tear gas, to get arrested. And yet they don't back down. It's actually quite remarkable. The way that people respond from a protest perspective in the Pacific Northwest. Can you talk to me about what that spirit of resistance is from your corner of the world?
I've been trying to figure that out myself for a long time. I'm not originally from the Pacific Northwest, but I think from what I've talked, people I've talked to, and, you know, just kind of looking at it historically, there always has been a resistance here. You know, the international workers of the world were based out of here, or sort of based out of here for a long time. And, you know, we had the WTO riots in Seattle, you know, that sort of thing. I think it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure where that spirit comes from, but you're absolutely right. You know, Portland, Seattle, they're always ready to mobilize. You know, even on Sunday night, they had mobilized protesters out there to be there for the houseless folks that were being evicted. So I don't know, whatever it is, it's you know, there's a lot of spirit there for sure.
Chutzpah is what I think our Jewish friends call it. It's a lot of chutzpah. And last question before I let you go, Shauna, you know, like I said, you've covered a variety of events and protest gatherings over the past, well, I'm sure throughout the duration of your career, but most specifically in this past 12 to 14 months, right? 2020 was unlike anything that we've seen on a myriad of levels, from the justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, to clearly the pandemic, to even the people who were like, what fucking pandemic? You can't make me wear a mask. That's our protest. We ain't wearing masks. Like, what can you talk to me about how the police have responded to these different incidents? And you don't have to be specific, like, well, in June they did this, in September they did that, but just in general, like, have you seen the police response ramp up? Have they taken like a more aggressive posture, or are they only aggressive with certain groups and pretty passive with other groups? As you said, they stormed the governor's mansion, the property. I didn't even hear that. So that's remarkable to me. But what have been your observations about how the police have been behaving in that region over the past 12 to 15 months?
You know, honestly, it seems that anything where it has to do with any of the far right being involved, there has always been far less police presence, if any, at most of those events, compared to the BLM protests, where, you know, there's always a massive show of force. I think the biggest example, you know, there was a big incident in Portland in August, where it was a bunch of far-right protesters and some BLM, Antifa, anti-fascist protesters, but cops never intervened once. I mean, you know, they were going at it, they were fighting each other, and we just never saw the cops come in. And you know, I don't know what their decisions were for that day, but it does absolutely appear to me that, or it's obvious to me that they tend to turn out way more for, you know, these sort of like left-wing events than they ever do for any of the right-wing stuff.
Well, they don't want to be arresting their cousins and brothers, I suppose. Jeb, I see you at grandma's later on for Sunday dinner. Put that AR-15 away. Get your ass from off of this Capitol grounds. We've been joined with independent journalist Shauna Sowersby. Y'all, please follow Shauna on social media. If Shauna has her cash stuff app together, her donation stuff together, donate to our local, our independent journalists, y'all. These are the people who are on the street, who are not trying to push a cop agenda, who will tell the truth, who will put the pictures out there as they see it. And and people like Shauna, people like Sean from Black House News and Chuck Modiano, like these people are out here really doing the work and telling the truth in a time period, y'all, where truth is sort of arbitrary, especially if you're following mainstream news outlets. So Shauna, thank you again for all that you do, your willingness to go out there and cover the stories that are not necessarily easy to cover, and for bearing witness and for letting us know what's actually going on. I really appreciate it, Shauna. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kim.
Guys, follow Shauna Sowersby on social media. Please, please, please. All righty. So let me wrap up here, because I know now what's weird. Hold on. It's 6 o'clock. All right. I don't like to hold y'all longer than an hour. Not really. I mean, we did go out an hour 20 on Friday. That's because Amorous Ebony was dropping bombs, baby. we just couldn't turn that off right away. But anyway, but like for all the people who've been finding us from clickbaity, I see Marcus and Mondale and Ben, they were talking to y'all for like 90 minutes. And people stick around. So maybe we do something longer. I don't know. But we have some comments from the comments. Reese Mack. Thank you, Reese Mack. Reese Mack sent a comment so we can update everybody. In case you had not heard, of course, the Friday show we did focused initially on the sister who was attacked in Harlem outside of the liquor store. She was attacked by three brothers. I don't know if they're not related brothers, but black brothers, right? She was attacked by three brothers. She was bitten. He tried to bite her eye out. I mean, her injuries were horrific. According to NYPD detectives, they tweeted out, thank you, what day was this? This was 1:31. This was Sunday evening. Tyrone Cooper was apprehended by the New York Police Department 67th Precinct patrol officers in Brooklyn after responding to a domestic violence radio run. He was also wanted for the brutal assault on 31-year-old female that occurred January 18th outside a Harlem liquor store. So it appears as though Tyrone Cooper, apparently he was the alleged assailant in the red coat, the main one talking shit to the sister out there. They got him. And am I happy they got him? I don't know. I mean, I want abusers off the streets. But I mean, I still want to abolish the police too. So make it make sense. I wish the community would have stepped up and fucked him up on the spot. We wouldn't have had to call the police. They should have bust his ass in front of that liquor store. No need to call the cops. So yes, defund the fucking police, abolish the police. If you see a domestic abuser, beat his fucking ass. Community, whoop his fucking ass, and we don't need the goddamn cops. All right. Right. Vernon Scott, thank you from the comments. I'm back to the comments. Thank y'all for following me, my scattered train of thought. Vernon Scott says, run me my $2,000, my UBI, and my reparation. Run it all, honey. The bill is due, and the bill accrues interest compounded daily. Run me my money. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. See, Joe Biden thinks that because he put Kamala Harris as his VP, that equals a discount. No, sir. No, sir. Kamala owe me money too. Northern Witch says Pacific Northwest is the home of the anti-fascist spirit. I'm very glad to live here. Northern Witch, we're glad to see you here. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And you're completely right about that. Shauna just reminded me about the WTO. Now, for the little babies out there like Genevieve and Tunde, y'all might not remember the World Trade Organization when the WTO meetings were coming to Seattle. Was this 2010, gang? Earlier, perhaps? Auntie's brain ain't the sharpest no more, but it was 2010, Tunde? No, I mean, they might have ran it twice, late 90s, but this was, I remember the WTO shit. I was totally of college age. So perhaps late 90s, early 2000s. Y'all know what it is. Y'all got Google. Okay. Peter Low Frequency says, thanks for this reporting from the ground, Shauna. Yes, again. And FYI, if you guys are watching and if there are independent journalists, multimedia journalists in your city whose work that you perhaps follow on social media and you think that these people do a very good job of telling the truth and are not cop stenographers, please drop the names to Genevieve in the chat or just leave it in the comments. Y'all, I want to talk to as many independent journalists as I can, really, because at this point, these are the only ones you can trust. Courtney, the SLP, says, why do they need tanks? Well, Courtney, there was a bunch of unhoused people there looking for shelter for the night. So, of course, they had to be so dangerous that they had to send 3 vehicles full of police officers armed to the teeth, in addition to the undercovers that Shauna said that she saw out there. Girl, it is just the reasons why, like, I hate the fact that the police are still out here terrorizing vulnerable people, including that 9-year-old girl in Rochester, New York. But they are showing their ass. They are making the case for themselves. You got to take the money away. And just to follow up real quick, I know you guys heard, if you didn't, and perhaps maybe we'll talk about this next week. the fact that in Texas, Austin, Texas, the city council there cut the police budget by some tens of millions, if I'm not mistaken. The number that's circulating in my brain says 50. I'm not 100% sure that's accurate, but it was not an insignificant sum. And with that money that they saved by cutting the police budget, the Austin City Council was able to purchase a hotel. I think I've got that correct. Purchase a hotel for unhoused people. That is how you reallocate funds away from police towards immediate community needs. Those people at the Red Lion Hotel in Olympia, Washington did not need to be evicted in the middle of the pandemic. If the shit was so fucking urgent, y'all heard what Shauna said. The call for the so-called alleged hostage situation came in at 11 in the morning and the police didn't show up to 6:30. So if they really thought somebody was being held hostage, they would have showed up way sooner. Guy Shaw from the comments says, if politicos couldn't lie, they'd be mute. LOL. Also, I'm interested, burn it downers. I don't know what we're going to call ourselves yet, but it's not going to be burn it downers. we're going to, and I can't say burners because Bernie got the lock on the burners. So, okay, we're going to come up with another. I don't want to call y'all arsonists because I don't want the damn feds to show up to y'all house and be like, yeah, we arsonists. And they'd be like, oh, for real? You're black? Open up, nigger. Got to get you out of here. So we're going to come up with a name. But, and see, now, damn it, my weed brain done forgot where I was. Mark Smith from the comments. You're on fire. Loving you calling out corrupt politicians on both Republican and Democrat. So glad I found you from the Trap Squad. Yes, honey. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you finding me also because I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. And when you tell people that you're not a Democrat, oh, so you must be a Republican. No, you guys, again, broader political imagination. We have to have it. In fact, if you look at who are, pardon me, the amount of registered voters in the United States, overwhelming majority are non-politically affiliated. They do not associate with a political party. Both Republicans and Democrats know this. That's why in the majority of states in America, the primaries are closed. In Maryland, I live in a closed primary state. I could have never, as an independent, cast a vote for Bernie Sanders during the Democratic primary because the Democrats said, you got to be a Crip to vote Crip, honey. And I said, I'm not claiming Crip right now. Democrats would say, okay, well, then you don't get the vote. You don't get a say. And I said, well, ain't that some shit? So there's that. But here, I'm never going to toe a party line for no party. Y'all need to know that. I'm barely going to cheer for politicians that I like because, you know, they need to go further left also. So we're going to call a thing here on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. I ain't no Democrat. I don't give a fuck if Democrats in power or not in power because they act like some little hoes. Either way, as we see right now in Washington, D.C., at the White House and Congress, these motherfuckers are bending over backwards trying to figure out how they can reach across the aisle and compromise with people who no longer have the majority. If the Democrats want to pass $2,000 stimulus checks, they can do that shit today, but they don't. Why? Because hoe gonna be a hoe, and that is a problem. So there's that. Listen, y'all, I'm gonna let y'all go. So Friday show, stay with us because I'm gonna have two of my good friends on here on Friday. Stephen Janis, Taya Graham. Of course, you know Taya Graham is the host of the Police Accountability Report on some channel network. I can't remember which one it's on, but it's a very successful show. It's probably the most successful show on that network, if I could remember the name of that network. We're going to have them on because Stephen and Taya produced a documentary chronicling what happened to a Black police officer who left Baltimore to become police chief of a small town on the eastern shore of Maryland. Now, I'm not going to talk bad about Pocomoke because I know there's Black people in Pocomoke, and Black people in Pocomoke, I salute y'all, hold your head. But Pocomoke looked like Klan territory to me. So why he went down there, the documentary explains that. But because he tried to institute more community policing methods, the white power structure turned on him to the point where they charged him with crimes and he was eventually exonerated, but not before going through a very long saga. So their documentary is on Amazon right now. I think it's in discussions to be added to some other streaming sites. So we're going to have Taya Graham, Stephen Janis on Friday to talk about their documentary. Also, and I know y'all be like, Kim, you talk about Maryland so much. Well, I live in Maryland. I don't know what to tell you. But But did y'all know the state of Maryland in the mid-70s was the very first to institute into law the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. If there is a LEOBR in your city or state, it's because they copied it off of Maryland, which again, Maryland, not as progressive as advertised. Do not believe the fucking hype. So there are efforts in the state legislature this session to get the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights rescinded. We're going to be speaking with a delegate. I'm pretty sure he's a delegate. I don't think he's a senator, and I should have had my shit together before I came on here running my mouth. But his name is Gabriel Acevedo. He represents Prince George's County in Annapolis. He's going to join us to talk about that. I'm very excited to discuss that. So I was not planning on making this a police week, a cop week, but you know, the cops is wilding the fuck out and fucking with us. And there are people out here bearing witness and hopefully taking political steps to make the opportunities for their protection, the police protection. If they harm our communities, they will be actually held accountable, not some suspended administratively paid vacation bullshit. So that's that. Thank you all again for watching the show. I sure appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We will see you all again on Friday. Thank y'all for coming out. See y'all later. Bye-bye.